don't trust anybody else, but trust yourself, in a certain way.
Yes.
I mean, you have to, spiritual leaders and religions will always say you have to have faith. You just have to accept this. Stop asking questions. Well, I'm sorry. I ask questions. That's what scientists do. That's what curious people do.
Yes.
And I am both, I think. Religion can provide some kind of spiritual solace for people, but it's it's a difficult bargain to make because you have to sacrifice so much. You have to sacrifice your own ability to think and to question and to arrive at your own answers because you're choosing to assimilate a sort of a pre-cooked set of answers that, oh, well, okay, this seems to work. I'll just internalize that. But it leaves gaps and it leads to a lot of it's just an imperfect adaptation and sort of closes off the opportunity for change and growth. It's an invitation to stop doing that.
We sit around the same fire, all right, when it comes to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's many different things that come into play, and mainly talking about comfort zones, which can be translated as what is the thing that I have been repeating the most up until now, which is really all a comfort zone is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then if you bring religion into it, like a organized business, right? One of the oldest patterns on this planet, which had been developed at a time when life was so hard, right? And self-knowledge did not exist at all.
Mm-hmm.
That hope was necessary still, right? So the people that went through hardships, and remember, we're talking about a time when the average lifespan was 30.
Yeah.
So you go through a hard time. What assurance do you have? Nothing. Okay. Now all of a sudden somebody comes to you and says, listen, you'll be fine. When all of this shit, excuse my friends, is finished, you will be fine.
Yeah, it's hard to resist that. I mean, there is a temptation to resist it because it's comfortable and it's reassuring, but is it honest? That's the thing. I would rather believe a hard truth than a comforting fairy tale.
I agree with you. I agree. And more astutely, I think would be the word to say it. Even if we do not bring honesty into it, okay, and we just work with what we actually can know, the fact that all of the rewards only come after you're dead leaves massive questions.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't experience that stuff now while you're alive. You have to die first.
Right.
So from a very personal point, I think it's outdated. Like majority of the systems that we're using today, right? Including economic systems, educational systems, the systems are, it's not that they're wrong, they're just out of date. And they need to be upgraded, redesigned, and just redone.
Yes, I agree. And that's one of the areas where psychedelics can help. I think in one of the main benefits I feel personally, people say, what have you learned from psychedelics?
Uh-huh.
You've been taking these things 40 years, 50 years. What is your take home lesson? What have they taught you? And the answer is kind of paradoxical. I could say, well, they've taught me a lot. Yes, they've taught me a lot, but what they mainly have taught me is how little I know.
That's so beautiful that you said
they
that.
Make it clear that however much you think you know, there's an infinite amount of stuff that you don't know. So what that tells you pretty much immediately is there's no reason for arrogance here. There's no reason for arrogance about how smart we are or how much we know, because we don't. The enterprise is inherently incomplete. You're never going to reach a point where you say, okay, I can tie all this up into a neat package, and now I can stop thinking about it, or I can put it on the back shelf. Got that one figured out. It doesn't work like that. So like the more I learn from psychedelics or just from living, the more I recognize how little I know and how much there is to learn. And as it happened, I enjoy learning. So this is not depressing to me. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Some people might feel, well, there's so much to learn, it's hopeless, Yeah, it's hopeless for sure. I mean, you're not going to learn everything, but that doesn't mean you can't approach it. You can't enjoy learning what you can, given your limitations, and that's fine. And it doesn't have it. I don't think it has to be this big quest to get everything nailed down by the time you die. I don't think that's realistic. You're gonna die, and you're gonna die with as many questions you.
Hopefully. Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, yes.
Hopefully,
well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you don't reach some point, and I don't think it happens after death either. Maybe
Cannot
after,
know.
if there is a afterlife or whatever, maybe at a certain point they say, okay, you've lived your life, now you're dead. Now here's what it was really all about. I don't think we're going to get that. I don't think when we get the recap, here is the secret of life that you just lived through. I think the questions are inherently always open and inherently unanswerable, really. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I think we have to learn to live with uncertainty. And I think that's part of what we learn as we go through life. You have to come to terms with it and accept it, and and not be depressed by it. Just accept it. This is built into the process of being alive and living a life, and by its very nature, it's an incomplete enterprise, if you know what I mean. So you learn what you can, and that's good enough.
This whole cycle, evolution blows my mind completely, right? The fact that we are in this perpetual process that's so many billions of years old. This is where we are, and we woke up inside these things now, right? So we go, okay, what's like? I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, right? It is amazing. And then we want to label everything so that I can say I know more than you.
Right, right.
Really, it's sad, For me personally, it's sad. If one really wants to contemplate existence and knowledge and all of these things, why not start with, okay, what don't I know that I don't know? And then you go, oh my God, what just happened? Like, what don't I know that I don't know? Like, what are the things that I cannot even pick up because my senses are calibrated a specific way that I can only pick up so much information of whatever is around me anyway. So by design, I am limited.
Right. Right, exactly. And again, this goes back to something relevant from the psychedelic experience, which is that our brains are programmed to construct this artificial reality. We do not. I sometimes call it the serotonin hallucination. And other neuroscientists, they talk about the default mode network, and this is the brain is constructed to filter, to construct this model of reality, and that's what we inhabit, not reality itself,
Exactly.
because that would
Yes.
be much too confusing. We couldn't handle the information. And the brain has evolved over millions of years to selectively filter out things that are not deemed directly relevant to our survival.
Yeah.
And so then that's part of creating this comfort zone, in a way, this psychic comfort zone based on habits and memories and prognostications based on your experience and your memories, and this is the world that we live in, that we're accustomed to, and we can navigate. Now, when you do something to disrupt that, to break that up, which is what psychedelics reliably do, and other types of impactful experiences do that too. But when you deliberately disrupt that model of reality, then you get to step out of that reference frame, and you understand things about yourself and about the reference frame that normally you're not, because it's sort of the old question: what does a fish know about water? Almost nothing.
Of
Right?
course, yes, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So, and when somebody plucks the fish out of the aquarium and takes them, into the air, and they realize that, oh, wow, this is a completely different thing. I never suspected this.
Yeah.
Psychedelics can do that. That's why they're useful. And in many ways, they're useful for learning about the universe, but then the therapeutic applications of psychedelics also have a lot to do with their ability to disrupt your reference frame and let you step out of your box temporarily, your existential box, and gain insights into what your problems are, whether they're trauma or addiction or depression or different things, just by being able to look at it from a different perspective. That in itself can be healing.
Exactly. So what you're referring to is what I call the objective observer. This innate ability we have to sit here and just observe without any judgment, any influence, any conditioning, anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just completely unbiased, unfiltered.
Right. And if you can step out of that reference frame, you can do that. So then once you've done that, you've got that to reflect back on. You've got these two sides of the thing. You know what it's like to experience it from within your carefully constructed artificial reality, and what it's like, and you also bring with it the understanding that this is in fact a carefully constructed artificial reality, and that's not reality. Reality is over here, and it's probably inherently unknowable, but again, that's okay.
Back to that, like two things, right, that just jumped into my mind. Number one is a quote from W.B. Yeats. I'm looking for the face I had before this world was made. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Perfectly applicable to this conversation. Because right now, in this moment,
right,
for the very first time, I thought, okay, maybe he was tripping when he wrote that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
The very first time I was thinking, maybe actually you never thought about this. Right? I'm looking for the face I had before any of this was made. Perfectly relevant to what we're talking about now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Before conditioning, before any of these systems. I mean, for God's sakes, like last year was the 200-year anniversary, right, of the peak of the Industrial Revolution. That's like 6 generations ago, when equal pay was rolled out.
Right.
So I mean, look at how much has changed. Now people think I'm born into a world, and as soon as I am born, the people who love me start telling me two things: what worked for them and what did not work for them, and how I should live my life.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell are we supposed to figure anything out? We have to get through so much conditioning first.
Well,
Stuff.
I guess that's the trick, isn't it? That's the hard part. You know, so many influences telling you what you should believe, what people should believe, what, you know, or how you should live, and so on. Uh, and everybody's subject to that. And I think our task, you know, in life is partly to internalize what seems valid and and not the rest, but mostly uh, learn to trust your own judgment about these things. You know, I mean, you're sort of the final judge, jury, and executioner of your own life. You know, ultimately it comes down to you, and if you feel like you trust yourself, then you can, you know, trust your views on these things that may emerge. And I don't know how you get there. uh, I don't know if you reach a point where you say, aha, you know, I have it figured out. I think this is something that you learn, and it's a lifetime process.